Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's get started.
So, you've been out for about 2 weeks now, and already they're talking about starring you in an action film. A throwback joint too. So, what's going through your head about hearing about that?
I mean, it's almost surreal, but I don't really want to talk about that right now because it's not that I don't want to jinx it. You know, I don't believe in jinxing it. It's just that, you know, because I make my own luck. Like for me, luck is it's an acronym: labor under correct knowledge. So it's not that. It's just that it's a year out, and we have to finish this documentary first. They'll be following me for a year, and once we're done with the documentary, then, you know, that's when I'll set my sights on that. Right now, I'm just laser focused on what's directly in front of me.
Okay, I got it. Fair enough. Then let's pivot. Then can we get into this documentary? What have you been working on?
Okay, yeah, we can definitely touch on the documentary. So the documentary is a documentary that is primarily for those in incarceration, to show them what it's like to re-enter society after being gone for so long. I'm one of 4 that they're filming. In fact, I'm the latest addition. There were 3 other guys, some not so successful stories thus far. And it was kind of interesting how I was even asked to be a part of this documentary. You know, I was working at the Echo Prison newspaper, sitting there at my desk on my iMac, typing away, working on a article. I believe I was working on an article on, I forget which article I was working on at that time, but in come some very important people, and, you know, all of our heads turn. And they say, "Hey, Mr. Hendricks, can we talk to you in Miss Kaiser's office?" And I say, "Okay." And everybody looks at me like, "Man, what do you do?" Because that's the kind of look you're going to get when these type of people come to the office, call you by your last name and say, "Hey, can we talk to you?" And I'm even thinking like, "Damn, what did I do? Did I do something? I know I didn't do nothing. I'm just chilling, right? I'm in chill mode." And but they call me in there and they say, "You know, we'd like you to be a part of this documentary," and they let me know what's going on. That they've hired a Emmy award-winning film crew, Adam and Elliot Motion Pictures, to film a documentary to follow. Initially, it was supposed to be 3 individuals into society and track their successes or failures, and, you know, they wanted me to be a part of it because they needed a success story, and I was humbled to hear that my name kept coming up in conversation because they felt like I would be successful when I re-enter society, and that I could be an encouragement to men on the inside all throughout the entire state of Texas. And to be honest, this documentary will probably be in every prison system in America. So I think this is a very big deal. I immediately jumped on it for sure. This is what I do. I encourage people. This is what I've been doing on the inside for quite some time now, encouraging people, uplifting my peers. You can do it. You know, get in school, get an education, make a plan, make a goal, these type of things. So for me to be able to show them, because it's not about talk, it's about actions. For them to be able to see this firsthand, the successes, I think it's going to be a very, very, very impactful thing for the world to see. So yeah, that's what the documentary is about. Re-entry, going from prison to society. If you succeed, you'll be a part of the documentary. If you fail, you'll be a part of the documentary. It's real life.
All right, so let's just get right into the thick of it. Let's go back to July 12th of 2017. You walked into a jewelry store with a gun, fired a round I mean, that's bold. That's that's wild. What the hell made you do that?
I'll start off by saying it was the worst mistake that I ever made in my life. Like, by far, hands down, I've never made a mistake that big. I mean, and I think it's evident that it was the worst mistake that I made in my life because it put me away for almost a decade. Right?
Yeah.
So, very costly mistake. For me to be a 35-year-old man that had a checkered past, teenage years, early adulthood, kind of checkered, to all of a sudden walk into a jewelry store at 35 with a loaded gun, discharge a firearm, and lead police on a high-speed chase on a motorcycle, and everything else that was on the news about it is definitely shocking. It was shocking to my entire family, I'm sure, you as well. So to answer the question, what made me do it? What possessed me to do such a thing? I think I have to go back a little bit. It's a lot. It's a lot that possessed me to do it. Everything that was going on in my subconscious mind, all the information that was downloaded into my subconscious mind from childhood on up, even including the events that took place and the information that I consumed about Hebrew Israelitisms and schisms, all of it. I think me seeing someone killed at 7 years old played a big part. Me saying so many people robbed and jacked and drive-bys in Los Angeles, California, for sure played a part. All of that information was downloaded into my subconscious mind. Me gangbanging definitely played a part. And even though I moved away from those things later on in life, they're still there subconsciously. So when I took on this unnatural foreign religion, that was like the tipping point. Because at the end of the day, I thought I was carrying out the divine work of some deity at the end of the day. Everybody that follows those beliefs don't do what I did. Mm-hmm. Everything played a part. Because at the end of the day, you are a product of your environment. That may look different for many people. But one thing is true is this: when we're born knowing nothing, absolutely nothing. So every action that you take, every inaction, every feeling, emotion, every thought is because of something that was imparted into you. We do nothing without information that was imparted into us by our environment. Otherwise, we would know nothing. If we were born in a all-white room with no one around and no human contact or contact of any sort, then we'd just be zombies. Mm-hmm. So, to answer the question, what possessed me to do that? Everything that I consumed, everything that was downloaded into my mind created this personality. I still can't believe that. I mean, I can believe I did it for sure. I did spend 8 years, but it took a while for me to even wrap my mind around it after I kind of snapped out of it.
Out of that state.
Like, man, what the hell did I just do?
After that, you jumped on a motorcycle. You tried to get away and got smacked off it by SWAT SUV, and then you were processed. Then you came to county jail. What was that moment like? Oh, what's funny?
You say processed like I was a piece of meat, on an assembly line or something. And it's true, because we were processed. I was processed, and I really felt like a piece of meat. I was stripped of my identity. That moment was degrading in every respect. To be not only physically stripped, forced to bend over, cough, squat, all of these things, physically stripped butt naked, but also to be stripped of my identity and given a number. It was no longer my name. I was a number. So that was demoralizing. That was dehumanizing. It was degrading. And I deserved it. I deserved every bit of it.
Yeah.
Because I was guilty of the crime that I committed.
I mean, you spoke about suicidal thoughts before in your videos. Can we go there for a second?
What's there to say? I was lost.
What stopped you?
The thought of my children. The thought of my family. And a single question.
What's that question?
Who am I? Who am I? That first night in county, I was literally thinking about taking my own life. Like, my whole world shattered. Everything that I thought that I knew and held so closely, and all these ideologies just came crumbling down. I'm locked up. I'm incarcerated. I knew I was about to do some big time. So I take my sheet and I have it in my hands, and I'm looking up at this vent in the ceiling, and I'm contemplating. I'm thinking, I can tie this sheet to this vent, make a noose, take my life. It'll be all over with. I've disappointed enough people. I disappointed myself. Might as well end it. What stopped me was thinking of my kids, my family, and that question, who are you? Wake up the next morning in county jail in a single cell, on murder row, what they called murder row. Didn't murder anybody, but they had me on murder row. They didn't have me in the pods or the tanks. I was on a row with about, I believe, 12 cells on this side, 12 on that side, and everybody on there was murderers. I was the only one that did not commit murder on that row. That was because this was a high-profile case. And so I'm on murder row. I'm hearing all the conversations and stuff, the crazy talk that's going on. I go to brush my teeth, and I'm looking in this stainless steel plate that's fastened to the wall, acting as a mirror. And this plate is so scratched up that as I'm brushing my teeth, I can't see my reflection. I can only see this very, very, very distorted silhouette, this outline, none of the contour, none of the fine details. And I asked myself that question again. Who are you? I thought it was fitting and almost serendipitous that I could not see myself in this mirror. So when I'm asking myself this question, who are you? It was set in stone that I did not know who I was. I could not see myself. Yeah, sure, I was a father. I was a brother. I was a son. I was a black man in a Texas jail. Those are all facts. But beyond that, I had no clue who I was. Beyond that, I could not answer that question. Who are you? I don't know. And that really sparked my journey.
Okay. So the climb, let's talk about the climb. Well, you were locked up. You earned 2 degrees. You got on staff for the only prison newspaper in Texas. You published a book and you left 4 more manuscripts in your bag. How the hell do you go from armed robbery to published author and a college grad? Walk us through that.
I opened a book. I can count on one hand how many books I read prior to incarceration from cover to cover. One hand, probably a couple fingers left to spare. My 2,892 days of incarceration, I read 416 books. A lot of them were novels, and you can take a lot of information from novels. I mean, some of these authors are psychologists and psychiatrists and lawyers and all kinds of people who become authors later on in their life, and they fill their novels with good information. However, once I had my fill of novels, I began delving into psychology and philosophy and science and history, archaeology, these type of books. And in these books is where I was able to get the answer to a lot of my questions. I remember reading, there was a set of books that I asked my bro, because I discovered that I wanted to be a writer. So in discovering that I wanted to be a writer, I asked my bro, I said, hey, can you send me some books? Him and his wife sent me a slew of books on writing. And I wanted to first write novels. I walked out of prison with some manuscripts, but I wanted to first write novels, and he sent me these thesauruses. It was by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. They had the urban novels, the urban settings thesaurus, the rural settings thesaurus. They had the occupation thesaurus, but then they had the emotions thesaurus, the negative character traits thesaurus, the positive character traits thesaurus, the emotional wounds thesaurus. And it was when I was going through the emotional wounds thesaurus so that I can build this particular character that I was working on, that I came across this section in the book, this emotional wound that said growing up in a dangerous neighborhood. And it listed all of, and let me give some backstory here, psychologists and psychiatrists around the world use this particular set thesaurus to help them understand the emotional wounds of the people that they're caring for and better deal with them. So I'm reading this, and everything that's attached to growing up in a dangerous neighborhood, this was a childhood wound. So this was under the section childhood wounds. And I'm reading this stuff, and I'm reading the character traits, the negative character traits and the positive character traits, and my jaw just dropped. I had to pick it up off the floor. I said, damn, that's me. What in the that explains me damn near to a T. So it was at that moment I began to think about stuff that I hadn't thought about in so long. And it all started with me opening my first book, which was Game of Thrones. That's how it all started.
Okay, so what made you want to become a writer?
Actually, I take that back. It wasn't Game of Thrones was not the first book. It was Maze Runner. It was Maze Runner, the series. So I picked up the first book. I was lucky to get my hands on the first book of Maze Runner. And it was just so captivating to me. And it took me out of this world. I mean, I read this book in like 2 days, a day and a half. Got the next one, did the same, got the next one. As long as I was reading, I was not incarcerated. So what made me want to become a writer is I wanted to be able to give others that same experience, freedom, right? So this is why I began writing novels first and fictional stories first, because that was the first thing that I read and that helped me escape prison. But as I began to read psychology books and philosophy books and begin to broaden my worldview and see things as they actually are, in opposed to what I thought they were before, that's when freedom came. Like, oh, I'm free. I have positive information coming in now. And so I wanted to be able to give back on that level, that type of freedom to people.
Okay. So that prison newspaper job, that's rare air. How do you land it?
I had my mind made up that I was going to be a writer. I knew this very early on in my prison sentence that I was going to write. Where it was going to take me, I didn't know, but I knew I was going to write. So I entered college with 2 classes on my mind that were more important than anything else: English and speech. Because I also knew that if you're going to write, you need to know everything about communication. I take the class and I give this speech where when you give a speech, you have to hand her the speech first. And then you give the speech like a week or 2 later. Well, she invited a guest who's now a friend of mine, and he's the director of reentry for Lee College, Tracy Williams, to come hear my speech, because she read this and she's like, oh, wow, this is a powerful speech. So she brought him in. And I gave the speech and I got a standing ovation. And right around that time, Miss Kaiser, the managing editor of the Echo, had asked her, if you can refer one person, past or present, one student, who would that be? And my name came up. So she told me, she said, Miss Honeywell comes to me and says, hey, what do you think about writing for the Echo? And I said, actually, I never thought about that, but I knew that one of my favorite authors, Stephen King, was a journalist before he became a novelist. I knew that, I believe it was Cormac McCarthy, a few authors that I really enjoy their writing were journalists prior. So I said, you know what, that would be cool. Yeah, I can sharpen my skills for sure. So she said, all right, write her a little letter. I don't write her a letter. I create a resume and I look up some information on how to write articles with my limited knowledge. And I wrote 3 sample articles. I packaged it in a nice folder and brought it up to her. And she was blown away. No one had ever apparently given her a resume and treated this like it was a free world job. So she was just taken aback.
And then you started speaking inside, like real public speaking. What was that like?
Powerful. Standing in front of a bunch of my peers and being able to encourage them Powerful. The first time I spoke inside was...
Next introducing our keynote speaker.
It was packed. Maybe 500 people. And it was for Black History Month. So it was a Black History Month event. I was the keynote speaker. I was asked to be the keynote speaker. And that's when I knew that I wasn't only going to be a writer. Like, for sure, I knew I wanted to do public speaking as well, but I thought it was in a different vein. So I said, you know what, I'm really focused right now. And for me, focus is an acronym. Follow one course until successful. So I had my mind set on writing. I said, okay, we're not going to do the public speaking and all of that. We're going to just focus on our writing and writing. But once I agreed to take the stage and deliver a message on unity for Black History Month, the response and really the days after, on how many people came up to me and told me how much I affected their life with that speech, that's when I knew, okay, yeah, it's actually a part of the message. It's a part of the plan, part of the process. So I really enjoyed it. My second speech was on a change agent graduation, and then my third speech, and that speech was on influence, the power of influence, and my third speech was at Lee College graduation, where I was asked to give a speech, to deliver a speech. So I had 3 speeches in front of hundreds of people in there, and really it was powerful, because again, I became a lover of words, and to see my crafted words affect other people's lives in such a way just baffled me. Speaking life into people is Modirf, and that's who I am.
Okay, so break down Modirf. What exactly is it? A brand, a movement? Explain it.
If I had to sum up Modirf, I'd say it's a message. You know, it's more than a brand. It's definitely a movement, but behind the brand and behind the movement is the message. And the message is the word in and of itself. It's an acronym. MODEERF. It's at the pinnacle of everything that I do, and it stands for many oppressed don't ever experience real freedom. And it's actually the word freedom backwards. Okay. So it's what I live by. It's who I am, and that's my message that I want to deliver to the world.
Okay, so what would you say was the hardest thing you had to go through while you were locked up?
Losing my dad, my sister, and not being there for my kids. Hands down. My pops was the best of us. Yeah, this dude's heart was just like so crazy big, you know that.
Absolutely.
My sister, she died way too young. She was only 11 months older than me. And not being there for my kids, for sure. Everything else was like a cakewalk compared to that, for sure.
Yeah.
Everything else was a cakewalk compared to that. Nothing was a cakewalk, but compared to that, for sure, everything was a cakewalk. But let's get on to the next question, because I ain't even trying to go there right now.
That's a hard topic.
Yeah.
You seem laser focused right now. You've shown me vision boards, the plans. Where do you see yourself in 1 year?
Finally, an easy question. Finally, an easy question. I see myself as a New York Times best-selling author. I see myself as top 20 public speaker on that top 20 list, public speaker in the world. And I see myself completing this documentary and beginning the filming of my first movie in a year from now. That's where I see myself.
Okay. Do you ever feel like you're putting too much pressure on yourself? Like you just got out?
I've been out 3 weeks. I thought about that, but the answer that I came up with was no, it's not too much pressure, because, and the reason I thought about this is because a lot of people ask me on the inside, or they suggest, hey, look, when you get out, chill out. Take some time out, a few weeks out, and just relax, chill, readjust. But I can't do that. And it's my same approach with where I see myself in a year from now, and why I'm holding myself to such high standards, because yeah, it's pressure, but I was under dire pressure on the inside, and pressure is gonna either bust pipes or it's gonna make diamonds. That pressure hasn't broke me yet. It didn't break me in 8 years. That pressure didn't break me. I'm not quite a diamond yet either. But I know that if I stay under that pressure, then I'm going to become the other option, a diamond. And so yeah, no, it's not too much pressure for me. I live for that pressure. I live for it. I love it.
If people are just tuning in to your story for the first time, what do you want them to walk away with?
If you're just tuning in for the first time to the Climbers Code, I want to say this to you. Welcome. Welcome to the Climbers Code. This is a place where you can feel free to be yourself, no matter where you are at in life. There is no judgment here. It's only growth. Wherever you are at in life, if you want to grow, if you want to climb, if you can see yourself at a higher level than where you are right now, then this is the place for you. Because I'm in a place where I have the information, I have the knowledge, I've executed the game plan to get where I could, to the top, to go from the very bottom of incarceration to the very pinnacle of incarceration, which is working for the prison newspaper. Only 8 staff writers, journalists out of 120,000 men. I want to share this information with as many people as I possibly can, to help people grow, to help people climb to their full potential. To their full potential. Who is it that you can see yourself in? It doesn't have anything to do with money. Once you begin to ask those questions, who am I and who is it that I can become, then the world gets a lot clearer. And I just want y'all to be on this journey with me at the end of the day. Join the journey with me. Let's travel to the top together. Welcome to the Climbers Code.